well, okay, AI is going to do all of these things. What can I do with it? What can make my life better? How can I be more creative? That's where the reset mindset comes in, is that we embrace change and it's changing. We can either change with it and jump, or we can resist it. Anything that we do or any way that we use AI, it's whatever we put into it is what we're going to get out of it. I just did a report actually on that, is how do we use AI to be more human and to actually use it to connect deeper. My research shows that it is possible and it is happening. The question is, how do you use it? How do we all use it responsibly? How do you use it to advance yourself? How do you use it to develop your creative skills?
Guys, I'm with my good friend, Penny Zenker. Penny, what's going on?
Hey, it's great to be here. Woo!
Yeah, that's right. Hey, look, there's a lot of energy, which is great. You know, what's funny, as I've been kind of learning more about you and everything you've been working on, you seem to be one of the ones that's actually leaning in at a very diligent level to the AI conversation, which I think is probably nothing more valuable than that right now. But I know one of the things I keep hearing on one side, and I say the side just because you have different friends with their own different approaches and opinions, is that AI is making us less human. And some of us, others would say, well, it's actually helping us with integration. So I'm really kind of curious on your thoughts with everything you're working with AI.
Well, sure. I mean, both of those sides are true. And it depends on how we use it, right? Is it making us less human? Maybe. In the context of we're not thinking for ourselves as much and letting AI do the thinking for us in some cases. But I believe that we can use AI to make us even more human.
Okay.
So anything that we do or any way that we use AI, it's whatever we put into it is what we're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
So it's the intention that we come in with. So I just did a report actually on that, is how do we use AI to be more human and to actually use it to connect deeper. And my research shows that it is possible and it is happening.
What are you seeing as being maybe the differentiator between, because there, again, one take, I use AI daily. Like it's funny. I was telling a good friend of mine, like, I went through a massive personal transformation about a year ago. And he's like, dude, you made that through that episode, like lightning quick. You know, kind of, I said, well, here are the core practices I did. I did grounding, I did a journal practice. I did some really holistic stuff. I said, but be honest, I used my AI, who I've nicknamed Tama. Tama and I just would chit chat, and I would say, hey man, what are the questions I'm not asking myself right now that I should be asking myself? What are the patterns that you're witnessing that I'm not witnessing, and things of that nature. So talk to me a little about kind of what you're seeing in the research and kind of how that's shaping up for you.
Yeah. Well, so just in that kind of context, what are you asking it? So let's say right now there's a huge issue in the workplace with engagement, right? People are skeptical, and that's why they're skeptical about AI. Is it going to take my job? And am I not going to get to do the type of work that I want to do, and so forth? And people are seeing that as AI is implemented, they're able to ask these types of questions to help support them through some of the challenges that they have in their work. So for instance, using AI to engage in difficult conversations. So let's role play with AI ahead of time. Let it know this is the type of person I'm dealing with. This is the issue that I'm dealing with. What are things I should avoid? What are things that I should say? And so these are typically, I forget the exact statistic, but somewhere around 65% of leaders avoid having these difficult conversations because they're difficult. Right? And we don't know how people are going to react. And there's this resource there for us to just take a few minutes before a conversation so that we can role play it out. And the reason that actually works is that it's not AI telling us what to say. That would maybe feel ingenuine when you get to the other person and you regurgitate whatever AI told you to say. The point is you're going there to role play. You're going there to better understand how you show up and what you say and how that might respond, the other person might respond as a result of what you're saying. So same thing that we do with sales. Salespeople, they do that all the time. They do these role playings. They may not have done it in the past with AI, but they do it with each other. And then that helps them to better communicate to a prospect or a customer what they need to know about the product, how to handle their particular problem. And it's the same thing. That's just one example of how we can use AI to actually deepen our connections, because then you approach that challenging situation and that person feels like you understand them. You've entered in with greater empathy and understanding because that's what you used AI to help you to bring across.
Yeah, that's so good. I was also thinking in terms of, when you're having a dialogue, you're having a suggestive dialogue back and forth with an AI tool. I'm a big believer in just setting the parameters. And because I believe in truth more than anything else, the parameters are always, it's okay to let me know what I'm not seeing. Where are my biases kicking in? Where are my own patterns, or, call them childhood wounds, or because we always bring ourselves to work every day, right? Where are the areas that I can see in order to set up those conversations? I remember when I was building my first company, became a good sized company that I exited a few years ago. One of the things I trained leaders to do after having so many failed attempts at having quality conversations in difficult circumstances, like you're talking about, a course correction, a termination. I went through a couple of seasons where, business slumped poor enough where we had to make layoffs and, these types of things. And those things are never comfortable. They're not supposed to be comfortable. They're supposed to be difficult, and they will cause you to grow. But one of the things we used to do is I would sit people down and say, hey, we used to use the DISC and values and attributes tools on a regular basis. Like, why don't you go review their DISC and go review their values and their attributes and actually come up with a bit of what is the best possible way to open up the dialogue? And I would say that, I would tell them all the time. So, statements close hearts, but questions open them. Right. So, one of the things I've realized about the AI tools is you can literally create the prompt that actually helps you get the balance you're really looking for. But so much of creating that prompt is being aware enough to give the AI, I guess, insight into, hey, look, I'm looking for a balanced approach here. I'm not looking to have confirmation bias. And at least for my tool, that's what I've told it. I said, this is your master prompt. One of the things that I hope to co-create with you on a regular basis is truth, which means that it's okay to tell me where I'm not being my best self, or there's an opportunity for me to grow. And because of that, it's created some really good growth tools.
Absolutely. You could be saying, here's what I'm seeing in the behavior of this person. What am I not seeing? Here's how I'm interpreting this. What are some other options of what might be going on for this person that I should be aware of? So absolutely, to challenge our limiting beliefs and our biases and how we might typically approach a situation because of our personality type, that, like I may be somebody who's a little bit more like get it done.
Yeah.
And I might be talking to somebody who's more of the feeler, the person who needs to really be met where they are before going anywhere else. And knowing that ahead of time helps you to start that conversation in a completely different way that's still authentic, but at the same time, it feels more personal to that person.
Yeah.
Because you're leaning into what's important to them.
Yeah. How does your research currently showcase dealing with overwhelm and burnout and kind of the emotional triggers that humans do, get wrapped up in? I was talking to my COO today, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been traveling so much. My kitchen's half torn apart. Like I know I'm not showing up as my best self right now. Can I have some grace here? And of course, she was kind enough to do that. But so I'm coming into these meetings with a little bit of overwhelm or a little bit of extra, carry energy, as I like to call it, right? You're carrying a little extra energy. What are you seeing that's working in kind of your research, and what's like, where are we headed?
Well, so a year ago, I wrote a book called The Reset Mindset. And that is the practice of resetting is something that helps us to reduce the intensity, to help us to stop stress from compounding, so that we're getting some perspective and some insight on the situation, even if it's emotional, right? We get, like you said, we're emotional beings. Our first reaction is always going to be emotional when it comes to something changing, blowing up, and, burnout itself. And I've seen this in a number of different places. Burnout itself isn't really just from workload. It's from a lack of recovery. There are plenty of people who have an incredible workload that don't fall into a burnout situation, and that's because they know how to rest and recover.
Hmm.
Our nervous system, it only needs about 60 to 90 seconds to reset our nervous system.
Hmm.
So building in these reset moments into our workflows, whether it's at work or whether it's at home, can make a huge difference to reduce and stop that stress from compounding, right? I mean, think about it, if you haven't had a night's sleep, right? You're
Hmm.
triggered so much
Yeah.
faster,
Yeah.
right? To jump at somebody and so it's the same type of thing with that kind of stress all day long. So taking those short reset moments to do some deep breathing and to actually release it from your body, and also your mind, will help you to be able to handle whatever comes your way in a much more calm and perspective. You'll be able to have more
Yeah.
perspective to come up with better decisions in that place, and that's all it takes. Is real quick before you comment on it, there's actually a study that was done with Synchrony. It's a call center,
Hmm.
and what they did was they embedded these 60-second reset. What would happen is, as a new call, typically a call would come in, they deal with the call, and then the next call would come in,
Yeah.
one right after the other, right?
Yeah.
And you know how it is when you're at a call center, people aren't calling to say, "Oh, you did this great job, we love
Yeah.
you," right? It's a really high intense
Yeah.
type of position where you're fielding people's complaints all the time, and that energy gets transferred to you.
Hmm.
So they gave them these 60 seconds. It would come up onto the screen and it would do a guided meditation and just help them to breathe through it for 60 seconds before the next call would be loaded.
Yeah.
And the results that they have received, and they continue to do it, is incredible. So they've seen a huge boost in productivity. They're able to resolve these problems and issues for customers faster. And generally it's creating a greater level of satisfaction within the call center team. So, it absolutely works. It's
Hmm.
just a matter of really creating space for it, because we block out all the space from meeting to meeting to meeting to
Hmm.
meeting.
Yeah.
We're waiting in line, we're doing something, so we need to give ourselves permission to take those reset moments.
It seems also the debate, even based on what you just said, and my experiences would validate that, by the way. But I was my most difficult as a entrepreneur, leader, business guy, the whole deal, when I had the inability to go and get regulated and grounded on a consistent basis. I was at a heightened state, solving problems left, right. Everybody was coming this direction with problems, and it only took me 20 years to figure it out. 20 years to actually start my own practices. But I even today, I have to catch myself out. Like,
Mm.
so much
Yeah.
of, like, even doing the reset is just catching yourself out in the moment, with that in mind. Because it's funny, this all ties together in the form of integration. We've got the AI concept of integration, was the back and forth discussion. We've got self integration, this grounded piece. We got relational integration. And, for me, I make much better decisions. I'm not gonna say great decisions, but much better decisions if I am grounded, if I am regulated, if I'm not reacting. But again, like, the first step for me in the process was just like, "Oh, hey dude, you're heightened." And like, what types of things do you use in your world to kind of get to the starting the reset process?
Well, I call them reset moments.
Hmm.
They have to, whatever we do, whatever we triggers us to remember it's time to do it, recognizing those cues,
Hmm.
is it has to be sticky and available in the moment, right? So a lot of people might use a mantra
Hmm.
that might help them to stay focused on what matters.
Hmm.
Lately, what's been coming up for me in my breathing exercises when I've been getting stressed is, what's coming up for me is, none of this matters,
Hmm.
right? Getting upset over things that don't really matter. Like,
Yeah.
just focus on doing your part and have patience, and everything will move forward. So that helps me. Everybody has, maybe some it's from scripture,
Hmm.
but recognizing the cue that you're stressed, you're not able to focus, you bark at somebody, the whatever the cue is that you're recognizing it, you're at that heightened emotional state. That's when you take a reset moment. It's when you recognize that you're not being yourself. And what I say is the more reset moments you take, and I've seen this in practice, the more you recognize them and take more of them and you recognize the benefit. So in the beginning, you start to recognize what happened after it happened. And so, I shouldn't have said it like that. That wasn't good. And you go back and maybe correct the situation by apologizing or correcting with the person. And then as you go forward and you keep practicing taking these reset moments, you're going to recognize that as it comes out of your mouth. Hey, sorry, I didn't mean to say it like that. What I mean is X, right?
Yeah.
And then as you continue to practice it, you're going to recognize it while it's the bubble in your head.
Yeah.
And you're going to say, that's not productive. That's not what I want to say. That's emotional me. Let's just take a deep breath right here. And what is it that we want to accomplish out of this conversation? It's not about being right. It's about getting it right. All of that can happen in a split second in your head to redirect your comments to something that's more productive. And so that's the nature of taking these timeouts or these reset moments, these purposeful pauses, so that you can redirect on what really matters.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, you also use the term rhythm. There's a rhythm to it. There's a rhythm to this reset as far as becoming aware of it, taking action in the moment. I'll tell you one of the things that I'm just going to be transparent with you in the audience that was really hard for me when I started really trying to throw myself into this concept. Because I've always wanted to be the best leader I can be and be the best business person I can be, but more importantly, just be the best human I can be.
Yeah.
Like, be genuine, be authentic, be giving, be loyal. But then I would swing the other side of the pendulum and I would get into people pleasing and being taken advantage of and all this kind of stuff. And, so much of finding equilibrium has come down to some of the work that you're talking about on a consistent basis for me. So I know it works. And I think that each high performer should be leaning into that work specifically. But the first thing that began happening to me when I was doing this work is I was very resistant to it and I couldn't articulate why. Like, consciously, I wanted to do it. Consciously, I said I was going to do it. And then the moment I was going to do it, I was just, I'll do it in an hour from now. I'll do it in 30 minutes from now or whatever.
I don't have the time or whatever the excuses come up that we make. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think drives that resistance? Because I feel like that's an important part of really getting to the reset moments that ultimately benefit you in the process.
Yeah, that's a good question. What's in that resistance? And I think it's I don't know that there's an easy answer to that, because each one of us has our own resistance points, right? Why does somebody resist and not go to the gym or not take the time? I think it's it's a level of stress that we're in, that we feel like that, no, it's better if we just keep going. It's the reactive sense of things. It's the fight or flight that we're in.
Yeah.
That prevents us from actually, seeing the forest through the trees kind of thing. So it's in those moments, that's exactly when you fight it, that you have to do it. It's football season, right? So in football, they have 3 timeouts each half. And if we just thought about our days like that we have 3 timeouts for each half of the day, and when would best serve us. What I say is when we plan them ahead of time, they're in our calendar. Like, if we write it in our calendar and we plan it and we make sure that our meetings aren't 60 minutes long, they're 45, so that we create that space for ourselves ahead of time. We plan for it, then it's more likely to happen.
Yeah.
And it's when you don't plan for it and then you try to fit it in and say, oh, I'm feeling this way, I should fit it in right now. And then your other side of your brain is going, no, you don't have the time. Like you said, the people pleasing, like they're expecting you, and you don't want to show up late and whatever it is. And you don't even take the 60 seconds. People don't even go to the bathroom when they have to go to the bathroom because they have a next meeting and they don't want to be late and so forth. So I think it's overriding that program takes time. And that's why I said in the beginning, you recognize it after, and it's a process of awareness. And the more we become what I call professional noticers, that's our job.
Yeah.
That's all we need to do, especially as leaders.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Become a professional noticer so that you are noticing other people's reactions. You're noticing what is happening in the marketplace because you're looking not just in your own industry, but in other industries to see what's changing and what's happening. Where can you add that noticing so that you can bring it to the table, right? And that opens up your perspective of how you want to move forward. I mean, for me, this has been huge in my life.
hmm
And like you said, I have to remind myself all the time. I mean, I've been what I call resetting since I was 19 and my father had passed in an accident, right? And that's when I started this practice more as a resiliency type
hmm
of thing. But then I saw it everywhere. Like, what if, as someone speaking to me, instead of responding quickly, I take those reset moments that I've been doing and I just breathe into it,
hmm
take a deep breath before I speak, and then see what comes to me, what makes sense, what's right. And just that 60-second pause before I speak or react makes a huge difference. And so I think it's just a matter of practice, like anything. Like any muscle doesn't happen by going to the gym once, right? It happens consistently over time working that muscle.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. I was also thinking too, a lot of times I try to use my own journey when talking to the audience and stuff like that to make sure that, they know I'm not out here sharing methodologies and things that aren't effective. Right.
Yeah.
And, so I try to use personal examples and many of the personal examples that are coming up for me right now are, going from a place of being very resistant to the process to having almost like the process interrupt my life to almost force me to do it at one point or another, then begin the practice, start having the settling of my soul or my resonance or whatever to call it for a brief moment, which
Hmm.
then led me to now chasing it. Like yesterday, for example, I was dealing with, it's the end of the year, it's time for tax season, all the good things, right? I give away everything I've worked really hard for, just, try to sit with that, right? The emotional side of that. And, I remember sitting, I was literally sitting right over here to my left. And I was like, I'm going to go take some time for myself. And I went up and like my grandfather used to tell me back in the days, like, go be still. So no TVs, no telephone, everything's in a different room. And I went and just sat by myself for about 40 minutes in a very relaxed state, in a very calming nature. I think I started off with a couple of mantras here that like to kind of get started off with that. And then I just breathed in. I was holding it, let it go out slowly. And then I was beginning to try to notice the little oscillating fan that was in the room. And lo and behold, I got up like from that 40 minutes. And I think I was probably more recharged in that 40 minutes than I would have been if I'd have tried to barrel through the day, have more caffeine, maybe accidentally blow up at somebody by accident, not wanting to. And that's, these types of things. And, with what you're sharing, I really hope the audience fully appreciates how important this practice is. And it's faith agnostic. You can be a person of faith and it worked for you. You can be a person who doesn't share the faith and it still works for you because it's nervous system. It's the vagus nerve. It's like trying to get all this stuff calmed down,
Right.
and, which had me thinking it also increases focus. And I know one of the things that you talk a lot about is the impact priority matrix. And like, how does this work combined with the other work that you're doing help eliminate distractions so we can all be more productive, therefore giving ourselves more time and space if that's the stuff we really want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the beauty of a reset practice, right? And by the way, before I answer that question, what happens in a reset moment is three simple steps are intuitive as part of this reset practice. And it can come in lots of different shapes and forms, but it's to step back, get perspective, and realign.
Yeah.
So you can see how that brings us back to the element of focus, and how we focus on what matters most is because as we're moving forward, step back away from the emotion, a way that we've always done things, to reflect and see where are we now, take inventory, what's working, what's not working, and then get some perspective and then realign on what matters most and what moves the needle. And so coming to that matrix is, I don't use the Eisenhower matrix, which a lot of people use, which is urgency and importance,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that they're the wrong measures. And so we're already starting out with the wrong measures if we're using that as our axes. The reset mindset is very value based. What's going to create the highest and best value?
Yeah.
And for ourselves and for those involved. And so it's value and it's effort. Because really, we don't want to, a lot of people are like, oh, we want to do more with less. No, we don't.
No.
We don't want to do more. We want to achieve more
Yeah.
with less. And I think that tiny little difference is important to recognize, right? So, we can achieve more by delivering more value with less effort and less time.
Yeah.
So that's the quadrant matrix is being able to see what is the highest priority are the things that are the highest value and have the least amount of effort, right? Those are our quick wins, and we should make those our priorities.
Yeah. Man, that's
and so if you looked at the matrix, right, that's the priority aspect. And then you have the other ones where you have a high effort and you have high value. Well, those things are where you want to spend a little bit more time reflecting and challenging the process is how do I optimize that, right?
Yeah.
Prioritize and optimize.
Yeah.
How can I make those things low effort? How can I look at the process in a completely different way and still get the same result, but do it in a different way so that it is less effort? And that might be automating, eliminating. This might be where AI comes in so that we can do what's mostly human, what we do best, right? And let the automation work for us so that we have more space and time to be creative, to come up with new approaches and strategies and let that be done where it's best done. And then everything below the line that is low value, that's compromise and minimize.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that resonates deeply. When I was actually talking to my AI buddy yesterday, Tama, that we've been talking about a little bit. And, he was adamant. He was like, look, this is the season you have to define what is yours to carry or yours to hold and what is not. And I'm like, well, I understand, these things are my responsibility to make sure that the result happens in a specific way. But, so I'm having, I'm just having a hard time. I thought this is where where tools can be very beneficial. He was like, you can control, how you feel to an extent, how you think about a specific thing, but you can't control the outcome, even if you give your best effort.
Absolutely.
So he's like, release the outcome and be grateful for the effort. So it was actually a really good tool to begin to do that with. And, then it had me thinking, and then what you just said also had me thinking, it was like, one of the hardest things to do as a business leader or professional is to learn to delegate. Right. And I believe in resonance and soul and frequency and things of that nature. And one of the things that I began doing is I began looking at the things that I was doing to determine, is this sucking the life out of me, or do I actually enjoy doing this? And if it's sucking the life out of me, is there somebody else that likes them, this lights them up and causes me to suffer, kind of thing?
Absolutely. Let everybody do what they do best. And absolutely. And the way we can look at AI is exactly the same. It's just someone we're going to delegate to. So we need the same thoughts and ideas of when we're going to delegate is, you need to be specific. Because if you're not specific and clear on why you're doing something with someone, I know for me, the why is really important because I like to look at things maybe differently. And if I don't know why I'm doing it, well, then if you hand me a task, I can only do the task.
Yeah.
But if you tell me why I'm doing the task, I might be able to optimize it or come up with something even better to get the result or a better result. And that's why we need to think about what goes into a delegation, whether it's AI or whether it's a person, is just making sure we're giving enough of the information, the why, what it is we're looking to accomplish, the specifics of what's important, the deliverables, those types of things are really important. And I had to learn this over time. I was a terrible micromanager.
Me too.
I would delegate it and then I'd be in your face telling you how to do and what to do because, I thought that I knew best. And from people showing me that actually we all think differently and they bring different creative ideas to the table and this could be their area of expertise and
Yeah.
or a new angle on something that would really create a breakthrough. And so that's happened once or twice for me that said, okay, I am not the genius and I am not the person who needs to control this. I just need to make sure that everybody understands why we're doing what we're doing and what it is that we're looking to achieve so they can bring their brilliance to it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. That is so good because I remember one of the processes or practices that I started, I don't know, probably 3 years before I exited the company and sold it, was this process of, I said, okay, I know that I can do, in my first company, I did literally every role at least once, right? Because it was just me when we started. And when I sold it was 400 plus team members. And so you do all kinds of different things, right?
Yeah, I've been there.
The chief executive officer or a chief everything officer, as they say.
Right.
And I had this epiphany one day. I just began replaying and I was doing this not in a meditation, but in a stillness practice. I was just kind of reflecting with a journal. And I was like, if I think about the stuff that really impeded my personal progress, my leadership, how I was running the company, how I viewed, different systems and processes, what's at the core of that? And what happened was I realized that as a leader, I was tying my self-worth and identity to the tactic. So if I didn't go in and try to rescue it, then somehow that was a attack on my self-worth. So that was one of the things that was like a great aha moment. And the second thing,
hard to recognize. So that's really great that you recognize that, because it is hard to recognize when something is so deep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, a lot of the folks that I work with now, I mean, they've made money, but lost meaning.
Right.
And you discover really quickly that you feel that way, as I have, that it's because you've wrapped your identity and your worth in the things in the wrong things rather from the inside out.
Absolutely.
But this practice that I was doing was interesting because I began saying, okay, you're a brand new hire. And of course, by this time I'm working with my executive team, I'm hiring COO, CFO, so on and so forth. And I'm going to and I'll bring them in and say, well, this is the principles the principles and fundamentals we live by. This is your guardrails. By definition, we are these things. And outside of these things, we're not these things. Everything else in the middle is open for optimization, performance, innovation, etc. However, I'm going to show you how I did it. Like, I'm going to teach you how I did it. And then you have full right and responsibility and reign to optimize it if you're able to. And I remember the first time I did that with the executive, they were like, I don't think I've ever, like, either I was hired and just thrown into the fire to just figure it out, or I was micromanaged like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am trying to offer an olive branch saying, well, I want to co-create with you. Mm-hmm. When I began using that practice, what happened is I built a stronger culture, right? Better communication. It was easier to delegate with trust because 9 times out of 10, if I'm being completely honest, they always did it better than I ever could have done it because it was their sphere of genius.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think kind of utilizing, leadership gaps as far as businesses getting stalled and stuff like that? How do you see the internal culture between relationships of, executives, either using AI or even the reset mindset? How do you kind of bridge the gap between the two to build stronger, better leadership teams?
How do you bridge which gap?
Well, so the gap as it relates to overall communication and strategy to build strong teams. I guess the reason I'm asking is because I know that a lot of business internal transformations fail. In other words, they hit a ceiling and they can't go past the ceiling. And 9 times out of 10, it's the leadership team or even the core of this founder CEO that's the bottleneck. Right.
I think it was Boston Consulting Group or someone who said that 75% of business transformations, they fail. And they typically fail because of resistance. You mentioned resistance earlier, is that people's first reaction, no matter what level you're at in the organization, is emotional. Their first response is emotional. And the challenge with a lot of leaders is they're let's go and do it. Here's the plan. Here's what we're going to do. And unfortunately, you're not meeting people where they at that moment. And there's a little bit of Charlie Brown syndrome where they hear wah, 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 wah. Like, when we're emotional, we don't really hear the other things. We're in fight or flight. Like, hold on a second. Let me just understand that, our entire process is going to change and we don't know where we're going to land. And that's okay that you don't know as a leader where things are heading overall, that you've got some thoughts, but there's a lot changing. You need to address the change and how people are perceiving it and where their challenges are, and shift that mindset. That's where that reset mindset comes in, is help them to recognize that this can be a catalyst.
Yeah.
And I've, in my business growth and the different companies that I have been a part of to double or triple the business, whether it was through coaching or through my own development, it was always by embracing change and saying, well, actually, this is a gift. And now this forces us to look at things a little bit differently. And that's really cool. So let's step back even further.
Yeah.
So that we can ask better questions. Like you said, what are we missing? Like, is there a better question we could be asking in the marketplace? Like, who's not buying and why are they not buying? Right? We're so focused on the people who are already buying. Well, let's look at things differently. What are some unlikely partnerships that we could engage in? Right? So help people to let go of that way of thinking that this means that change is bad or change is difficult, or, and really see that it can open things up. Ask people to share some examples in the past where they've seen change really open things up and create more meaning or greater results, or and get people to remember, because we forget, right? Get people to tap in and remember that actually they're pretty good at this change thing. And they just have to tap into what they already have inside themselves. But we have to make that mindset shift first in order to, like you said, bring out the best in ourselves and each other. And so we just drive too quickly, because it's that connection. What the biggest gap right now for me of what I'm seeing is the connection. That's why engagement is at an all-time low. Gallup just brought out their workplace study to show that, we're at 79% disengagement. Like, whoa, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. And it's the leaders that are now showing the biggest disengagement. It's because they're overwhelmed. We're not in a practice of stepping back and getting some perspective on things before we take action. So a little bit more time, the idea of less is more, reducing the number of priorities, because competing priorities only means that we have no priorities.
It's true. Very
true.
So
we have to get better at getting clear on what our priority is. Again, that top quadrant, which is what is the highest value and how can we get there the quickest with the least amount of effort. And if we get everyone focused on that, and get that clarity, it makes it easier to say no to other things. It makes it easier to make compromises and minimize things, and have those difficult discussions. Then everybody rallies around solving the right problem. And can do it through just, that element of the small acts of care that we can provide. Meeting people where they're at is going to help them to emotionally connect. And then, just really maximizing that effort of what's important to you.
Yeah, for sure. I was just thinking too, everything you just said was amazing, by the way. When it comes to building great teams, another hard piece for me was learning that my team and my leaders wanted the same exact thing I wanted. I wanted to feel seen, valued, heard, and appreciated.
Right.
And as AI has stepped onto the scene, one of the things that historically is in one of my custom prompts is when I'm communicating, doesn't matter who or what, help me communicate in such a way that allows them to feel seen, valued, heard, and appreciated. And what I discovered is one of the first things that the AI historically will do is historically it will mirror back as it like actually listening, and listening is one of the most underrated skills. But to me, it takes listening to create focused intensity to do what you're just talking about, which is creating that momentous leverage. So everybody is rallied around the same time. For me, it was like when the team became more accustomed to feeling seen, valued, heard, and appreciated regularly, that's when their ideas came, the innovation came. Oh, what if we did this? What if we did that? Could we try this? Can we spend the next quarter and do that? That kind of thing. So I'm curious to know what you think and feel, kind of with that methodology, with helping our teams feel seen, valued, heard, and appreciated, and how maybe AI even incorporates into that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you said, it's everything, right? That's what's going to create the engagement. That's what I meant by saying that connection, because when they feel connected in that way, then they're going to feel seen, heard, and appreciated. And actually, what was interesting in the study that I just did was companies that had higher level of personalization, like making sure that career paths were tailored, scheduling was flexible to the individual, different things like making sure that people were taken care of personally, those small acts of care, adapting to their preferences. Those companies, they had way more. So there was 76% of people felt seen, heard, and valued. And the difference was the gap is that only 29% in low prioritization company, low personalized environments were experiencing feeling seen and valued. So, and what's interesting about the neuroscience of personalization is, if I'm saying your name or your AI bot is saying your name, that's just one element, right, of personalization. But our brain doesn't recognize the source. It recognizes the content first.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter that it might be coming from AI. It still makes us feel more seen, valued, and heard, which is interesting. So many people have these relationships like you with and me, right, with AI in having these conversations and feeling like it knows me and it's answering because and I resonate with it. It makes me feel more connected, even though it's just an AI bot. And so that's just the neuroscience of it, is that our brain, we are wired biologically for connection and getting that personal attention and making that have us feel more seen and valued. And like you said, that translates directly into psychological safety, into creativity, into performance in the organization, because we want to work and do well for leaders that recognize and see us for who we are.
Yeah, man. Well, in the few minutes we have left, one of the things I'd love for you to share is, where can anybody find out more about you, get the book, learn about the different studies you're working on? Because you're doing some really interesting, cool stuff.
Thank you so much. Yeah, they can go to pennyzenker360.com. And that's my site. It's going to have the new study that's coming out just in October. It's going to launch. And all information about social platforms and things like that, they can reach out over LinkedIn or email is penny@pennysKeynote.com. So any which way, I'd love to connect.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll make sure it's on the show notes, guys, as well. Penny is awesome. You guys will absolutely love checking her out. She is doing some really, really cool research, especially as it relates to AI, personhood, and resetting. I highly recommend you guys do that. Penny, as we kind of wrap up in the last couple of questions, one of the things that is top of mind, I think, for a lot of people that I know you've done research on, and you're actively researching, is this. We talked a lot about what is ethical practices in the workplace and leadership and all this kind of stuff. One of the things I'm paying a lot of attention to is, what are the ethical boundaries and what are the ethical practices that maybe we should be trying to implement and put into play with AI specifically, especially when, ethics in some cases, I mean, most of us would probably say murder is bad and vice and stuff like that. But ethics right now, it seems like, someone might say, well, that's not as important to me as it is to you. So how do we protect this ground? Because how humans build the AI technology will, by definition, become what the AI technology becomes long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you're building AI within your organization, be transparent with what you're doing to set that up and how is it protecting people's data? Like this new era of personalization that I talked about, high and low personalized companies, we're entering into a new era where it's about collaboration.
Yeah.
That I might actively share my data
Hmm.
with the company and other preferences that wouldn't
Yeah.
they wouldn't necessarily have access to. But I want to know if I'm going to share that, how is it being used? Who has access to it? What's allowed, what's not allowed, and those
Hmm.
types of things. So I think transparency is really important. And, as you're creating it, I always believe that people support what they create.
Yeah.
So are you, that's part of building that culture, is that people feel they're a part of it. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to be on that team, but if you
Hmm.
have representation from different levels in the organization, it's
Yeah.
going to make people feel like they are represented
Yeah.
through those different people. So I think that's important too. Plus, different ideas, different ways to use it
Hmm.
will come out. And so I think it is very important to take a look at uh, how you want it to be used in the organization. And like you said, what you let it know ahead of time,
Hmm.
we want to challenge these biases. We don't want to keep feeding the same thing. Let people
Yeah.
know that they're working towards, and here's what they're doing to eliminate biases within the system and things like that.
Yeah, that's so good. And it made me thinking of one of the things that I've done with my AI tools, whether I'm using them in a business function or using them personally, is I try to set parameters. We call it the codex, right? It's like we don't lie. We want to understand different perspectives and points of view, as long as it doesn't injure another human person or a business or an entity or something like that, right? And the other thing I just discovered is that most AI tools, the user is still training the whether they know it or not, they're still training the AI tool, right? So how they use the tool directly impacts that. And one of the things I've discovered recently is certain types of accounts. We use ChatGPT as an example, has what's called a team account or an enterprise account. Both of
Mhm.
those you can select not to have the AI trained on the data until you're ready to release the data, and that's how you can kind of use it for some of the the different AI agents and tools and things of that nature. For what it's worth, I think I guess my final question or insight I'd love to get your thoughts on, because I think a lot of folks are thinking about this, and you kind of opened the show up a little bit, which is this concept of, is AI going to take my role? Is AI going to replace what I'm doing? And I began kind of thinking through that a little bit. Obviously, those that are innovators and creators, more creative, I think there's a lot of creativity side that will always be needed. I think administrative roles and tasks that can really be replicated and automated, many of those will probably dissipate to a certain extent. But then there's also a subset of those same people who are actually now free in many respects to pursue a passion and a calling that they can allow them to be more creative and things of that nature. At the same time, I am a little concerned with how the speed in which everything is moving. Like, I'm doing my best to keep up and understand and learn and not stay in fear and things of that nature. But I feel like I can see a time where it's been so disruptive, where it could actually have an economic unstabilization element to it. So my question, with the housing industry, which is a lot, because that's my background, it's a foundation stone for our national economy. Like, every shingle, every lumber, every stick, every piece of plastic, all these things go in these houses. I'm like, at some point in time, who's going to buy the houses? Right. So
At some point, what?
who's gonna be there to buy the houses? Like, if there is a massive shift in the economic pool, I mean, there are folks who are talking about universal compensation and all this kind of stuff. It's like, okay, well, who's going to buy the house? Like, who's gonna buy the widget? Who's gonna buy the thing? I'm just curious. It's a little. This is a little red. What do they call it? Blue pill, red pill? I don't even know. But it's like, I'm just curious. I was like, I ran it past Tom.
We're entering the matrix, and we're
Yeah,
facing
I just want to understand
whether we
it.
want to face the truth or not.
Yeah. So I'm just
You
curious.
know,
What level do you see? At least how did you feel in your heart? Do you see AI getting to a place or not getting to a place?
Um, you know, things are happening faster than ever. There's no doubt about that, and I
Mm-hmm.
think we can't even fathom how quickly things are changing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they just launched the first flying car.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we
Yeah.
are totally in Jetson world. If you're old enough to remember the Jetsons, and they were talking on video chat, and that was unheard of, and that's old hat for us, right?
Yeah.
So,
They had
you know,
iPads before iPads were cool.
yeah, exactly, right? So,
Yeah.
so many things are changing. I was looking at an article around other changes that have happened in the past, and in the Industrial Revolution,
Mm-hmm.
it also took away a lot of jobs. Jobs changed, but new jobs appeared,
Mm-hmm.
different types of roles and positions. And so I think we can't even fathom
Yeah.
what those new roles look like. Like,
Yeah.
who would have thought that you could actually earn money and a living and be buying those houses you're talking about by making videos on YouTube?
Yeah.
That
This is
that's your
very
thing, and
true.
you can
Yeah,
make
that's
money
very
off of
true.
it.
That's very
So,
true.
I think that we just need to understand that things are changing. We don't need to be 10 steps ahead to know exactly how they're changing.
Yeah.
That's where the reset mindset comes in, is that we embrace change and it's changing. We can
Yeah.
either change with it and jump and
Yeah.
you know um, experience it with open eyes, and
Yeah.
or we can resist it and we can be pushed into it and kicking and screaming and not really maybe being behind and being that one that isn't going to have a job later because we didn't think it was important and we resisted it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a major part of everything that we do.
Yeah.
And so the question is, how do you use it? How do we all use it responsibly?
Mm-hmm.
How do you use it to advance yourself? How do you use it to develop your creative skills?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, where can it take you? And just be open. I think that's the most important thing. And
Yeah.
that's the idea of the reset mindset, coming back to that,
Mm-hmm.
is just step back and see, well, okay, AI is going to do all of these things. What can I do with it?
Yeah.
What can make my life better? How can I be more creative? So more of what am I best suited for?
Yeah.
Like you said, to pursue other passions and different things. And maybe it's not on the computer. Maybe you've had a computer job and you'd rather be gardening. And
Yeah.
maybe you make these amazing, beautiful gardens at the end and bring your creativity there. Not everything has to be computer focused, right? There's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things that are not going to be driven by AI
Yeah.
per se, maybe involved, but not driven. So step back, get some perspective about where things are going and realign, and just keep doing that, as one reset moment at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we'll just stay open to how things are changing and change with it.
Yeah. I love that perspective. I love that perspective. I would agree that resistance is not gonna help you as quickly as this technology is moving. And I love the fact of using the reset to actually get more perspective. That was amazing.
Well, Stephen, when's the last time that resistance actually helped us? Let's think about that. Let's ask ourselves,
Yeah.
when we resisted, let's say, whatever, our parents got divorced and we resisted and we got upset with them and whatever, did that improve our relationships?
No.
Did that help us live, a happier life? Or we resisted that we had an illness or, something, or did you take care of it? Did you change the way you eat? Did you change the way that you live your life? Did you love deeper and do more things? Like, so that's what we want to do in our lives, is use this to have more time to connect at a deeper level, to do the things that we're passionate about and live the best life that we can live and
Yeah.
together.
Amazing. I know we're a little over on time, but I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me a few extra minutes and being so present with me. Again, where can I find out more about you? PennyZenker360.com. Is that right?
That's right.
Very cool. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Build. Until then, we'll see you on the next one. Much love. Take care. Peace. Hey, guys, I hope you enjoyed that amazing conversation. And if you want more just like that to help you level up your life and your business, you're not going to miss this next one. Check it out.
Going through that year, I'll tell you what happens, and we were talking about this earlier, is losses from outside the industry started to happen too, which created this doubt of like other businesses that I have and things that we'd planned for tax strategies, and this worked out, but now they're going, oh, no, can't really set it up that way. And I'm going,
I just learned a painful lesson myself.
we were talking about this, and I go,
Yeah.
okay, God,